when I was growing up, they said to me, do not talk to your father about this. I remember I was 7, and he always used to punish us the old fashioned way with the belt. He was all very old school. That's how they taught him. He taught us that way. And the archangels surrounded me. And every single time he would try to hit, it would bounce off that wall that they created and would never get to me.
Welcome to the Awaken Magazine podcast, where influential conscious leaders come to share the real stories behind their spiritual journey and how they're helping others awaken to love. I'm your host, David Trotter. Question for you to get started. Have you ever met someone who has never forgot heaven? Well, I want to introduce you to Glenda Dawson. She is a psychic medium, a healer, and a channel for the Council of Nine. And among many other things, she helps people clear dark energies through what she calls paranormal cauterization. And she helps you meet your permanent spirit team. This is an incredible conversation that I know you're going to love. And if you are drawn to these types of deeper spiritual conversations that go beyond the surface, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the Awaken Magazine podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music. Click subscribe, leave a rating or a review. That's an easy way for you to help us spread the word about these inspiring and incredible interviews that we release each and every week. All right, let's dive into my conversation with Glenda Dawson. Glenda, thank you so much for taking time to hang with us today. It's great to be with you.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
I want to hear all about your journey of awakening to consciousness, mindfulness, spirituality. And I often like to start in our childhood because that's where so much of that influence comes in, right? Either we're aware of our own giftedness and or we are introduced to some sort of faith. Did you grow up with some sort of spirituality in your home, or did that come later in life?
Well, I was very blessed, even though it was, the boxed in religion, as people call it. I got to really have that deeper connection with the other side, with the divine beings, with the archangels. When my story is a little different, when I was born, I never lost the connection. So I remember everything. I used to see archangels and would have conversations with them all the time. And it wasn't until later in life that I realized that not everybody does that. And so the day before the age of 2, they came to me. And I remember this very clearly because up to that point, I wasn't able to walk. I was born with a birth defect that would not allow me to walk. And the specialist after specialist after specialist had told my parents, no way, nothing's going to happen. Just, get her used to a wheelchair, get her used to getting around in different ways, whatever. And the day before my second birthday, they came to me and they said, come on, you're walking. I'm like, I can't. Like, what are you talking about? Basically, I'm paraphrasing sort of. And they just took my hand and I went inside and I asked my mother for a glass of water. After she screamed and fainted, then I had the whole neighborhood there because they heard her screaming. And they knew that most women at that time were by themselves with the kids during the day. So everybody came over and this big commotion. I'm like, all I want is a glass of water. To me, I wasn't putting one and one together. So the next day was my birthday. And as I blew out the candles, I made a commitment to serve the divine for greatest good. And ever since then, they have taken me into wild journeys. They have taken me into getting up in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to Dunkin' Donuts before COVID, and just meet up with somebody and start talking to them. and then become friends with them, just chatting and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, like, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, they would confess they were about to kill themselves. But the
Mm.
fact that I was there took them to a different place and made them realize that they were noticed. So things like that. I've had situations in Pennsylvania where there's a major highway, but it's in the middle of one of those nature park things protected by the government, and it has a wall, and the person was right on the wall sitting there about to jump. And I arrived and I'm like, just talking to them. Oh, it's really beautiful. Oh my, you're really brave to do that, because I'm looking up and I'm holding onto the wall here, and and I just started chatting and just joking around, and they got off the wall. I said, "Why don't we go? We got over there. Why don't we go and get something warm, hot chocolate or whatever? Because there's a restaurant, maybe like 2 blocks away." And because he was so interested in spirituality at that point, oh, what do you do and all that. So we sat down, and later on, he confessed that day that he was about to jump. So it's stuff like that that they make me do. Like, I just get the information, go here, go there, teach this class, do this, do that. And that's how I live my life. Um, I married my first husband with the same directives. You have to be the mother of these three children, and he has to be the father. And I was like, okay. And I knew already by the age of 15 what the genders were, what the order was, what their hair color and eye color was. And I even told him, we're sitting at McDonald's, because young, you're sitting in
So
McDonald's
you're
parking lot.
15 and you
15.
know the young man who you are
And
going to be
yeah,
married to.
exactly. And
Mhm.
the line that he's going to give me, and that's the key. So I had an accident when I met him the day before. So my bumper in the back of my Camaro was a little, off kilter. And he said something about, do you know your bumper is, misshaped or whatever, or twist? And I'm like, I know. And then all of a sudden, you bing. I'm like, oh, come on. I'm having a good time in college. I don't want to get in a relationship. So, but it was meant to be. And I
How
would
old?
not,
You said
wouldn't,
you were 15 when you met him?
no, I was 15 when I found out about it. I was
Oh.
25 when I met him.
Oh, so you saw, did you see him or you just knew
No, I
the
saw him. I saw him.
really, but you
Yeah.
didn't know him yet.
No,
Okay.
we didn't even live anywhere near. We lived approximately 50 miles away from each other at that point.
But when you were 25, you finally met him.
hmm As I was
Okay.
looking for somebody else, that it was hanging out in that group, and I just saw the other person that I knew, and I was like, stop real quick just to say hello. And then he introduced me to everybody else, including him. So,
Hmm. Amazing. Take me back a little bit because we went from 2 to 25 real quick there. And I'm curious about, as you have this awareness at
mhm.
2 to have this commitment to, how did you say it? To serve
To serve the divine for greatest good.
greater, for the greatest good. Okay, so what did that look like as you were a
I,
teenager and then going into, it sounded like you went to
right,
college.
right.
Like, what did that look like in terms of serving the divine combined with your, like, some sort of education or career path? How
Right.
did that unfold for you?
Well, that unfolded for me when I was growing up, basically. Knowing, having the empathic feelings to know when somebody was down. So my friends, they will call upon me. Like, I keep saying that I have more secrets than the CIA, because everybody, I go near somebody and they right away feel comfortable enough. So I create that vessel, that safe, sacred space. And that's how what I did through my whole high school. Now, mind you, I still have my human experiences. I still had the moments where it was scary. I still had the moments where I'm like, are you sure you want me to go there? Because that neighborhood is not good. And
Hmm.
I don't know about it. I'm very short, and I'm not so sure I'm going to be safe there by myself. And they always keep saying, if we tell you, if we direct you, you will be okay.
Mm.
And I have lived my whole life with that same thing. Every opportunity I have taken, every single step that I have taken, I always check. So what do you think, guys? Yes, no, what, is there a yes, but should I be careful for this? Should I be doing this?
Hmm.
And being a person that's gifted, generational, I could go back at least 9 generations of women in my family who have had gifts.
Wow.
So, you know, when I was growing up, they said to me, do not talk to your father about this. Only allowed to come to your mother, your grandmother, your great grandmother. And at that point, I still have my great great grandmother.
Mm.
So they said, only us. And if you see something, if you talk to anybody, don't assume that people are seeing the same thing you are or
Hmm.
feeling the same thing you are. And I never quite understood what they said. And as I grew up and started reading about, the burning of witches and people, thinking you're crazy and putting you away, I was like,
Hmm.
okay, you were trying to protect me.
Did you talk to your mom or grandmother about some of the things you were
Oh
hearing?
yes, yes, yes.
And
I always
what was their response?
Well, their response was basically, "Don't talk to your father." Who's very, very Christian and
Mm.
very close-minded. That would have been evil or
Hmm.
coming from a devil's point of view,
Hmm.
until he had his awakening. Um, I remember I was 7, and he always used to punish us the old-fashioned way with the belt. He
Hmm.
was all very old school. That's how they taught him. He taught us that way. And the archangel surrounded me, and every single time he would try to hit, it would bounce off that wall that they created and would never get to me.
When you were 7 years old, you said.
7 years old. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so that made him aware that there was something more,
Hmm.
that I was, protected. And then he started seeing what he called angelic beings. I don't know which ones he was seeing, because to him it was a subject that, okay, no, I'm not touching this one.
Sure.
Um, so he changed completely. He never hit any one of his kids ever again. And
Wow.
he knew that at that moment, that was not right.
Hmm.
So, and he changed also. He became a lot nicer. He was a great father, great provider, but
Hmm.
he learned the way he was brought up was a little tough.
Hmm.
Um, so that kind of opened the channel for me with him. And I
Yeah.
was able to speak to him very slowly about things
Hmm.
also. So,
At what age, at what point in your life did you begin to make a shift to offer your services to help other people in more of a, for lack of a better word, like your career, your job, your vocation? At what point did that emerge for you?
well, it occurred when I was a paralegal, and I had under me 128 attorneys. And Spirit said, you're going to have to start using your gifts now to help those that are around you. Because
Hmm.
there were a lot of people in the office, and there was a lot of negativity there. And, you know, a lot of stuff happens. You see the clients come in at the most vulnerable stages a lot of
Right.
the times. So they said, okay, we need you to start upping your, and that's when I started kind of transitioning. And then I was fighting it because, I fight it. I'm a Gemini. I like to have a good discussion, a good dialogue with my spirit guides and my team, and and so I started saying, no, I don't want to do this full time, and they say you will, and I said okay, uh, but
Were you
why?
already, were you already educated and equipped in terms of Reiki and other modalities,
Oh,
or just
well, Reiki I started in 1980s. I was from New Jersey. I lived in New Jersey, and I was going with a couple of my friends to New York for a different class, a different spiritual class. I think it was meditation that they were doing, and it was a whole day event and all that. And I saw this little tiny sign as we're walking down. I think it was Sixth Avenue or something, and I'm looking at the sign, and the sign kept calling me, like pulling me.
Hmm.
And I said to my friends, "Girls, are you okay? Continue going by yourself?" And they're like, "Why?" And I said, "Because I'm being called here." And they're like, "Oh, she's getting one of those again." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm getting one of those again." So I went in um, with my credit card, and it was a lot of money back then. And I'm like, I don't even know what Reiki is, but it's calling me. So I need to follow that. And that's when there was a Japanese grandmaster that would come once a year to teach and attune. It was a weekend thing. And, back then there were no books. There were no little pamphlets for symbols. There was nothing of that. You got your class on one day. The next day, they you had to perform. You had to really give a treatment right there.
Hmm.
So you better pay attention. It wasn't a thing. And then they would come back, and before you were allowed to take the next level, they would test you again.
Hmm.
So it was very organized to me, very dedicated. You had to have, and that is why that's where I started to get professional lessons, I guess.
Hmm.
Instruction. Everything else I used to do, I just did because they just guided me. They channeled
Right.
through me, did whatever I had to do. So.
So you went through that weekend Reiki training. That was like Reiki level one,
Hmm.
and then you just kept going back to the same
Kept going
school?
back. Yep, kept going back to the same school for 4 years,
Okay.
and then I got
And were you
married.
utilizing it simultaneously with friends or family or clients,
Yes,
or
yes, just no real clients. It was more like I was doing it as like, oh, your shoulder hurts. Okay, let's do it. Oh, you have a bad day today. Let's just give you a Reiki. And they would come. Like my friends would be like, I really don't feel good. Can we do this? I'm like, sure. And they would just come over and we'd hang out. And I was doing Reiki right there, and it was natural. It wasn't like you got to set up this that. It was just a natural thing. And so when I got married at first, I kind of backed away a little bit because you know you start having kids and you start working for a house and all that stuff. So I backed a little bit, but I still had that intuition. The second, and literally the second I got pregnant, I knew I was pregnant. That kind of intuition.
hmm,
I would say, "Oh, we're pregnant," and he would be like, "How can you even know? We just the night." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm pregnant," and I would tell him, "Okay, I have twins, but they're not going to make it," or "I have twins, but my daughter, who was a twin, one is going to make it." And when they did the ultrasound, they said there's only one. I'm like, no, there's two. There's two. And I kept saying there's two.
hmm,
I had a miscarriage, and then they found the other one. It was
hmm,
sitting right back of the other. So all my life, basically, and then once I stopped, once I got divorced from him, actually, I started taking more classes at that point. My kids were 8, 4, and 2, and so I started whatever they called me for, whatever somebody would come and deliver something, put it in my mailbox, and I'm like, how did this even get here? Because in those times, yeah, there was the internet, AOL, that wasn't much of anything.
right, right.
Right. And but it was just arrive, and or somebody would be talking about it in the supermarket about a class or this, and that's how I found all my mentors.
Mm.
Actually, my ex-husband introduced me to my biggest mentor. She was teaching me how to integrate everything. So not just like, oh, Reiki's here, this is here. And she kept saying, it's all energy. It's all your connection to the divine. It's all your connection to the other side. Why are you separating? And I'm like, yeah, okay, you're right. So why am I separating? And so that's your
Mm.
brain. Get it away. Tell it to sleep. And that's when I started realizing that there isn't black and white. There's a lot in between.
So you were separating the different modalities in some way
Right.
in your mind at that time?
Yes.
How
Yes.
did that play out for you? Because I think a lot of, conscious leaders or healers that are listening, they might be struggling with that too. Help me understand how you were doing that.
Well, I would say, okay, this goes under the heading of Reiki, so only Reiki. This goes under meditation, only meditation. This goes under, tarot reading, so only tarot, you know. And it's like you're still using the connection, the
Mhm.
energy, and you're still connected to your team, right?
Mhm.
To your team. And no matter if your team at that very moment is two, six, 200, whatever you need, you
Mhm.
will receive.
Mhm.
And um, I'm, I call it my team. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
It's interchangeable. A lot of people like to call it the collective, but I like to call it my team because it's always been my team. It's always been with me. And yes, I'm not saying that exclusively Archangel Michael only works with me. That's ridiculous,
Right, right.
because they're all over everywhere. I'm not saying that the Arcturians only work with me. No, but it's my team. When they get together, they're working with me at that point, and I'm
Mhm.
connecting with them at that moment. So it's my team.
Do
So,
you have a relationship with your team to the point of like, okay, I know there's this particular angel or these
right.
particular, or is it more of like a a collective, a group that's a little bit more nebulous? How does
Well,
that work for
I
you?
do have my permanent team,
Hmm.
and that is Ishtar. That is essence of divine. I like to just leave it that way.
Hmm.
And then Archangel Gabriel, who gives the orders when Archangel Gabriel comes in as a female, divine feminine. That's when there's business to be done, and that's when I'm like, yes, sir, ma'am. That's the one that did. It's the real communicator and kind of like the sergeant or the general
Hmm.
in the orders,
Hmm.
or the directors. I shouldn't say orders. The directors, because I always have free will to say no. But
Hmm.
I know that when I do something, it also energizes me, and it also heals me. So if I do a healing session, it I'm not doing it. They're doing it, and I also get the benefit of it. So
Hmm. So
um,
those are your all stars.
those are
Then
my
you got some
answers.
pinch hitters that pop in from time to time.
They come in and out, but there's never less than 15 with
Okay.
me. So um, even even when I walk into situations that are less than the best, I get told you're taken care of, and then all of a sudden I see them surrounding me, and I'm like, oh, okay, that
Mhm.
it makes me feel good that uh, I'm seeing it and I am
Mhm.
feeling it. And
Mhm.
when I, of course, for anybody who doesn't understand, I don't see with these eyes. I see
Mhm.
with this one, but
Mhm.
I see them full. I see them like if it was a real person next to me.
Mhm.
So,
Now, for some people, they have had that experience as you describe
mhm,
from a very young age, and it's kind of like, well, I just know, I just see it.
right.
For others who go, I don't necessarily have that experience. I might have a sense that I have entities or spirits that are with me. How could you help those individuals more clearly become aware or more clearly see their team?
Well, I actually hold sessions to meet your guides or meet your team,
Hmm.
and I put them in meditative state for all intents purposes, and I allow them to then experience their particular team.
Mm-hmm.
And have them introduce themselves to them, and kind of like a calling card. Like, for example, some people may have Archangel Michael, and they see something shiny right away, something silver and shiny, or they have a Dromedon, for example, and they may see emerald green for some reason.
Mm.
I have experienced that a lot of people do have different calling cards, even
Mhm.
for the same entities.
And are you the one who's seeing the entity or the team member and then letting the person know, or are they seeing it themselves? How does that
Now,
work during the session?
my session is they see it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
If I am like the ringleader to make sure that there's nothing that should not be there,
Sure.
because they bring their own stuff, and there may be some attachment that needs to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I protect them and I create sacred space. So, but I let the person see and experience it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I just guide them. I guide them and I say, okay, somebody's going to come to you. Ask them who they are. Ask them what they do for you. How can you work with them? What is their calling card? Is it a smell, or is it something you're going to see? Or is it a feeling that you'll just know? Let them show you what their calling card is at that moment,
Mm-hmm.
because this is your team. Everybody has a team, and you should be able to connect with them when you need them so you can work with them.
Mm-hmm. And that's not just those who would consider themselves a healer, facilitator, or coach. You're saying every single person has a team
Everybody
to,
has a
to
team.
support you
Yes.
on this journey of life.
Right. You The second you are conceived and your soul comes in, when
Mm-hmm.
your soul comes in with six spirit guides, permanent spirit guides that also travel with you when you go back to love, when you go back to home.
Mm-hmm.
They go back with you. Now, those are your six permanent, but then there's others that come in and out, come in and out. It may be somebody like a family member who passed away and they were very close to you. They want to become a guide for you from that point on. And that's what it is. So at that moment, you will get to meet your sixth permanent, your spirit guide, the animal spirit guide, and then I'll get to let you meet some of the other guides that come with you.
And I'm assuming that that's a really exciting experience for people who participate in that with you.
Yes.
What are some of the
Yes.
reactions that people have?
Well, a lot of the times their reaction is like, "Oh, wow, no wonder, somebody would always smell roses right before one of their team members would come in.
Mm,
And she said to me, no wonder I would smell roses in the middle of like winter inside my house where there was no rose. And I would be looking around, like wondering what candle did I forget to put out or anything like that. And I'm like, they were trying to get your attention. They were
yeah.
trying to introduce themselves so you be consciously available to hearing what they had to say.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you were worried about a decision you were making, or a house you were about to, or even moving, or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
And they were there to help you. Or if you were having a Kundalini awakening, I mean, that's tough in some people.
Mm-hmm.
It's really rough on some people. And they're there to support you and hold you while you're having this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So funny you mentioned that. I have not had that sensation of smelling something
mm,
like you talked about. But this morning, um, Mandy and I just got back from Egypt like just a few days ago, and I've been getting up the last two mornings at 2:30 a.m. and I'm fighting this cold, and I'm like, ugh. So I'm just laying on the couch with my laptop, and I'm working on some things for an upcoming event. And this morning, I'm laying there, and all of a sudden, I get this smell of like a fall or a pumpkin scented candle. Like it just, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, there's no candle. There's not even a candle near me.
Hmm.
And I was like, huh. And then a couple seconds later, it did it again. And I had this thought to myself. I'm like, what is this message that I'm supposed to be getting right here? And I didn't, you know, it didn't register necessarily what it was. I'm still going to be open to that, but I had that experience myself this morning for probably the first time ever. That was very fascinating. Um, I'm curious about your presentation, the way that you share what you do with people, because you now, many years later, um, you've been doing this for a couple years, Glenda. Okay, I know you know that, but
A
um,
couple.
and you have all these different modalities and ways that you help people. But when you meet someone, how do you describe what you do? How do you share that?
Well, one of the ways I start is like I'm very spiritual, and I'll allow the divine to work through me, whatever that appears to be or manifests in the physical world.
Hmm.
Um, and then I go into, I teach and I give sessions and I help you find your way. If you're lost and you don't know what your um, next step is, I'll help you come to understand what it is. And then I, basically, because it's very hard. Sometimes people are still very blinded, narrow minded, basically. And it's very hard sometimes to just open up and say, "Yeah, I've been talking to spirits all my life," and and they're, some people may look at you like, "Oh," but I have found that if I say, which is really interesting, if I say I'm a paranormal investigator or have investigated paranormal, all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, really? How do you do it?" And I'm like, "Okay, so that's the way I have to go in and get you to then be able to hear the rest of the stuff that I say
That's fascinating. What do you think it is about being a paranormal investigator that makes people more open to the conversation?
because they're accepting it more now.
Hmm.
They're understanding so many videos and so many programs and so many articles and big people out there showing the paranormal and talking about the paranormal and all that. So they are now more open to it. They're not as scared of it. They understand that there is something besides just this. And it's very easy. I tell people, you believe in the afterlife. Well, that's part of the afterlife. Yeah, you believe that you're going to go to heaven. Well, that's kind of like a step. For some people they haven't quite made it to into the light for different reasons. Maybe they feel guilt, maybe they feel scared. You don't know what they lived through or how they died at that moment. So you are seeing that, and they may be coming there and going back and back to the same place because also they may just, that's the only good part about their life, so they keep reliving it. So
Hmm.
it's very interesting. Sometimes you have to be careful, only because there are a lot of people that are still not so open.
Hmm. Sure.
And if they all understood that no matter what path you take, it all leads to love. Goes back to divine creator. Doesn't make any difference if you're Buddhist, if you're Wiccan, if you're Catholic, if you're Baptist, if you're Methodist, it doesn't make any difference. As long as you have love in your heart, as long as you do the best that you can without causing harm on purpose, you know, we're human. We're going to make mistakes. As long
Hmm.
as you try to correct, to have that high standard of authenticity, that high standard of moral conduct, and allow your heart to follow, or allow your heart to lead, really. We all go back there one way
Hmm.
or another. We punish ourselves.
That's true. That's true. I want to hear about the people that you most often serve in this season of your life. Who are those people that come to you, and what are the presenting challenges or problems that they're coming to you with? That might not be the real issue, but what are the things that they're coming to you and struggling with?
Well, a lot of people are coming now with what they call dark attachments,
Hmm.
which it's really about normally about a dark energy that has stuck to their field because they have not been able to work through something.
Would they actually say dark attachment? Would they say those words?
Yes.
What are some of the other ways that people describe that if they don't use the word dark attachment?
I'm experiencing evil.
Hmm.
I'm experiencing bad luck. I have this dark cloud over me.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, let's see what's really in there, you
Okay, so
know?
when they come to you,
Hmm.
what it I know I've got here on my notes, you now I don't know if this is the right, offering that you do, but you do something called paranormal cauterization.
Hmm.
Is this where you would bring paranormal cauterization in?
No, I would take the first step first, the
Okay,
holistic detachment modality, that session,
okay,
um, because that I scan the body
okay.
and
So they
find
come in.
out, yeah,
I want to walk me through this. So this is in
okay,
person or via
or
Zoom.
online, right,
Okay.
right,
And they come and they say, "Hey, I've got this dark energy, this attachment,
right.
something." And then walk me through what you do.
So as they're talking, I'm
Mhm.
scanning their field,
Mhm.
and usually their field is pointing to me. In like little red dots. Hey, look at there, look at here,
Okay.
and some dots are that they haven't worked through some trauma energy.
Mhm.
So it could be trauma from a different lifetime. It could be trauma from this lifetime. It could be something that happened to them, especially when we're young. We go through a lot, and unfortunately, the older generations we're not exactly all nicey nice. So a lot of people went through a lot. Some mothers should have admitted that they shouldn't have been mothers. Some fathers should have admitted that they shouldn't have had kids.
Mhm.
And at that point, they cause more trauma. So you start, as I say, I start with a foundation. Okay, where did the first original big trauma occurred? That's where that soul piece left their field and left an opening. It's kind of like a pothole. So
Mm.
now you got that guilt, that feeling of nothingness, and all that building inside the person, energetically surrounding them. So it attaches to them because you have a pothole now, right? Your field it has a place where they could hang out and feed.
When you say attachment, what is being attached? What is the attachment?
It's actually just an energy, a being that's full of energy. Now, when we're all happy and our life is going good, or we have come to the conclusion that um, everything is inside of me, all that I'm looking for is inside of me, and I take it from a love, from a divine point of view,
Mhm.
your field is very well established, it's very thick, it's very protected.
No potholes.
No
Fresh
potholes,
asphalt.
fresh asphalt, all nice. No, no, not even a car has been on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So when these people come into me, they have a lot of dings and a lot of holes and a lot of rips
Mhm.
because you start with the original trauma and then the entities come in. Now, if they go to a place where it's very negative, and we have all been to places where you walk in and you could actually feel that hit you right there, or you meet somebody who just not a good person,
Mhm.
that energy can then jump into you
Hmm.
and start feeding off you
Hmm.
to give them um, more food, more strength.
Mhm.
Could also be that there are, I hate saying evil, I should say chaotic entities around because there's a yin, there's a yang in
Mhm.
everything. There's a good and there's the not so good. And those entities look for hosts because the more that they could chaos they could cause you, the more negative energy you transmit, the more they can feed off you. So you become a buffet.
Mm.
And there's different dimensions where different entities come from. There are people call them attachments from like other planets, like Palladians and this and that. But I think that there's just, to me, attachments could be good, could be bad. You just don't want to have any attachments really, because you want to be complete. You want to be sovereign. You want to be whole. You want to be in the light, shining your light, and not having anything disrupt you.
So
So,
you're scanning the individual, you're seeing these different things. Once you
mhm,
recognize something, you're asking them questions, they're sharing about
right,
their life.
right.
What do you do from that point?
And then what I do is once I scan completely, I'll tell them, okay, you have this, 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 and this is why your left shoulder is hurting, or the right temple is hurting, and this is why your stomach, you always have stomach issues where you may have IBS, and that they have not told me this. And I
Hmm.
said, and this all stems basically from when you were 5.5 to say 6.5, you saw somebody get murdered, for example.
Mm.
Okay, that's shock for a child. That it's shocking for an older person, never mind for a child. Or your father was really terrible, or somebody in the family molested you, whatever it is.
Hmm.
And then I work with my team. Now, I make it a humorous thing where I ask Archangel Michael to come with an Uber car. And when I talk to these entities and I say, look, I'm not going to kill you. I'm not going to do anything to you.
Are
But
you
this
doing this
person,
out loud with the client?
sometimes I do out loud, sometimes I don't. Depends
Okay.
on the client, because sometimes you could see that they would be freaked out if I do
Right,
that.
right, right.
So, but I do say out loud, hey, Archangel Michael, come, or whatever entity I'm using that day,
Hmm.
come with the Uber car because you're going to transport some entities. And then I explained that they're going to be leaving her field, going into the Uber car, and the archangel or whatever is going to either take them down to to Gaia,
Hmm.
to the dimension that they want to be in, or to the divine upstairs. That's it. Now they still have a choice, but one of the choices is off the table. They will not be able to stay there
Mm.
because that person has fed you enough. That person has had enough of you, and you're causing way too much unhappiness.
Hmm.
And they did not come here to suffer all the time.
Hmm.
They came here to have some joy in between the ups and downs of life. And so I do say out loud, okay, so and so, and they tell me their name and everything, and I tell the client, well, so and so just left, and whoever, that's as if they want to know. If they don't want to know, then I just keep my mouth shut and say, okay, everything is cleared that needed to be cleared. And then, they get in the Uber and the archangel takes care of wherever it needs to go. Then I
Hmm.
say, okay, just breathe and relax again. I'm going to go into the underworld with a guide. The underworld, that's because I'm my shamanism uh, modality. I'm able to go to the underworld and bring those pieces of your soul that left because they couldn't handle what was happening at that moment. I want to make sure that I spackle your whole soul, put those pieces in, like if I was spackling a wall, and make everything look beautiful and shiny and all that.
You're
So I
mixing metaphors now, Glenda. We got to stick with the road.
The
All right.
road, okay, so
Got to fill those
you
potholes.
the potholes, okay, and I make it all nicey nice and make it so it looks like it's never even been walked on.
So you do this energetically, going
Energy.
into the underworld,
Right,
pulling back these aspects of their soul,
right.
filling the potholes.
Mhm. And
Okay.
then I also strengthen their aura because their aura is their first shield of protection.
Hmm.
And something else, if those things that I just took out of them want to come back, they can't. anymore
Hmm.
because the aura is fortified, so that particular frequency cannot come back.
Hmm. Have you ever had a situation where there was let's just say it's a little bit more than an energetic attachment, right? It's
Mhm.
maybe an entity um, that wouldn't leave, that like
Yes.
took some extra I don't, work, so to speak. Like,
Mhm.
have you had that experience before?
Yes, I have. And that's where I do 2 sessions and then I do the cauterization. Cauterization is I basically burn the entities. We had a chat. You didn't want to negotiate. Okay, now it's off the table. Now we get to business. And I go in there and basically energetically burn the entities off,
Hmm.
and then cover everything with healing light and healing and all that. And again, fix the potholes
Hmm.
and make it all nicey nice so nothing appears to have ever been disturbed.
Hmm.
And then the person can feel better. Now, those healing sessions are not done half an hour or whatever, and that's it. They
Hmm.
continue working for days. So I also give the person some aftercare instructions, like stay away from social media if you can. Don't watch the news. You don't want to watch the news unless it is all happy, happy, that kind of thing. Drink water, do this meditation. And then I give them specifically what my team channeled through me for them. So each person gets a specific thing to say every day to refortify the work that was done through me. And so the cauterization thing that was given to me I channeled that about 15 years ago, but I never really
Paranormal cauterization,
cauterization,
like you're
right,
cauterizing
right,
the entities.
because I used to go into houses and cleanse them. So they helped me do the same thing for humans.
Hmm.
Now, you've heard of the Conjuring House, I am sure.
I am not familiar with this. Tell me
Okay,
more.
that is in New York,
Okay. How
Staten
do I
Island,
spell this?
Conjuring, if I
Okay.
remember. The movies were created from the real story.
Conjuring House. Okay. Okay. Keep going. Tell me more.
So one day I was there for doing a paranormal event, and I was to meet the celebrity medium, as they called it, whatever they called it. And I walked in there. And before I walked in there, the house had been very active. But before I walked in there, I said, May I come in? I'm not going to harm you. I just want to see this. Just want to participate in this event. And do I have permission? I walked in, and that night, it was great. They got evidence all over the place. Nobody got harmed, nobody got pushed, nobody got anything. But I go in a little different. I speak to the entities that are there
Hmm.
because I feel, although they may have been living at one point and now they're not, they deserve respect. And when you go in with respect, you get a lot more. You get cooperation, you get negotiations. I have walked into houses where their ancestors were Native Americans and were killed by the ancestor that raped their family member who was a Native American, and oh, every generation is basically doomed because there's been like whenever this bloodline goes through, now everything goes wrong. I have walked in, had a chat, as I call it, with the entities, with the guardians, whoever, and we've come to a contract. And okay, what do you need the actual living to do? And one of them was to plant more fruit trees at every corner of their property line and have family dinners every Sunday.
Hmm.
That brought the family back together,
Wow.
and the chaos was done. 2 days later, on the third night, after I had done that. They wake up in the morning and their mattresses in between the mattress and the box spring was all blood.
No way.
So that was the sealing of everything. That meant that they finally shed the blood. They're not angry anymore, and they were like, it was worth it. We took those mattresses out. We bought new ones, and we have had peace ever since then. She
Mm,
was able to get her art out. He was able to uh, expand his construction um, company. They were going under,
mm,
and everything turned around completely. And
wow.
they still have the family dinners every Sunday now with their kids and their grandkids and all that. But they continue that. And really, what the spirits wanted was a union,
Mm-hmm.
a respect, a feeling that they mattered. So,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's like a little bit of what I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. My goodness. Um, Talk to me about the Council of Nine.
Mhm.
Uh, when did you start channeling for them? Who are they? What are their primary messages that they share?
Well, I started channeling for them or for about 10 years ago, but publicly only about 4 years ago. Um, there are a group of nine. So it's a round table. Let's just envision this a round table with
Mm,
9 seats. Every single time I channel is a different entity there, but they're still the part of the Council of Nine.
mm,
I may have a dominance. I may have galactic ETs per se. I may have humans that have passed on. I may have archangels or, whatever comes in, but it comes in the light.
mm,
Now, all of their messages are for humanity to try to remember who they are.
mm.
So they give us a lot especially when I'm doing the public ones, they give me uh, coordinates where our mind then goes to that coordinate, to that place. And whatever we feel,
Geographical coordinates or more of like a place in our mind?
well, it could be like a 17, 9, 5, 10, and then red.
Yes, I have heard this on your YouTube. Help me understand what this is.
This is energetic coordinates that they give us, and somehow we get there. And all of us in the group, although I'm the only one that might in in the camera, but all of us in the group go to the same place.
And you're hearing the coordinates and the
Hmm.
color,
Right,
and
and
then
then I
you
just
say it out
travel.
loud.
Right, and then I just poof travel. There are
Mhm,
times where my team is a little funny and they send, like a clown or a duck to take me, or my team is very funny. But it, I just astral project or travel
mhm,
there, and when we're there, all of us are having the exact same experience,
mm,
even though all the members are not anywhere near each other.
mhm.
We're not even in the same state. So when we say the coordinates and we travel there, it is to help us remember a piece of us, help us remember who we were. I've had people email me saying, "Oh my God, I when I went there, I saw myself with you guys, and right there and then I remembered I could do channeling. All of a sudden the next day I started hearing and I started seeing, and my life has changed because they remember who they are and what their gifts are so they can do what they came here to do in this lifetime.
Mm.
A lot of people need to hear. A few months ago, we had a very interesting type of message, which was directed to a woman who was being abused.
Mm.
Now we didn't know who it was
Mhm,
at that moment, and we just saw them saying in a big bulletin board, "Tell her this," and we're reading what is said on the bulletin board.
mhm,
And a week later, the woman contacts me and says, I was that woman, or I could possibly have been that woman. I was trying to decide whether to kill myself or find a way to leave, and I found the strength to leave.
Mm.
And it's just stuff like that that we don't understand it. I don't even ask questions anymore because they'll tell me, and I'm like, okay, can you bring it down to human wording? you know, and they're like, you don't need to know. And I say, you know what? I don't. I
Mm.
don't need to know because I didn't sign up for the explanation. I signed up to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically, and they're just there every single week or every single session that we have,
Mm-hmm.
and they are there to help us, even us, because there were times where I've been still human. I have not been in the greatest of moments, and they just take me to some place, and then I remember
Mm.
I'm divine. I have love with me. I am loved. I am seen. I don't need any external validation. I got this. So why am I like feeling so low? I
Mm.
got great things going on. I got grandkids. I got my children are beautiful. My grandkids are beautiful. My life is really good. So
Mm.
why am I there? And then I remember it's a human experience. You got to go through it also, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes we bring stuff from other lifetimes that we have to release in this lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
or it'd be easier for us if we release it. So,
Thank you for sharing that. I'm curious about the amount of content that you put out into the world. Uh,
mhm.
as I'm getting to know you, I see the number of classes and workshops that you provide online, as well as I think you do 3 YouTube shows a week. Is that right? Did I count that correctly?
1, 2, 3, 4.
4 a week. Okay, I missed
Mhm.
one. Um,
Okay. I
how
miss it too.
how do you manage I guess how do you come up with the different classes that you offer? How do you manage all that you're offering? It seems like I mean, I interview a lot of people and I get to see, the things that they're putting out into the world, which is
Right.
so many good things. How do you navigate what you choose to offer? And then how do you manage offering the amount that you put out into the world?
Well, I navigate what I offer by listening to my team. They basically say, okay, the world this week needs this. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to kind of direct me that way. And I know that if they give me a suggestion, if I take it and I do it, I'm guided. So I never have to worry about it. I'm always supported. I'm always held. And the only thing I could think of that I have the reason I have all this energy to do all this is because when I do this, and especially the healing sessions, I'm healing myself because it's going through me. So when I channel, that energy is going through me. When I do Reiki, that energy is going through me. When I do a podcast like Glenda's Dragons, then that energy is going through me because the energy of the guest is always there. So
Mhm.
they bring their energy, they're a healer or whatever. They're also radiating energy. So I just I just do. And maybe it helps that I'm a Gemini also. I'm always moving. But I honestly, yes, there are times when I'm tired and I need my me time and I go into a wooded area and I sit in peace and usually it's my backyard. I go all the way to the back where I have all my trees and I sit there and I just like, okay, this is my time. I need to reset.
Mhm.
But in the morning I start with my own little ritual. I call it. It's like that's my conversation time with my team. Okay, what's happening today? What's happened? What do you need me to be? Whatever. And then at night I'm like, okay, thank you for the day. Um, Please try to let me sleep, although I know that somebody's going to have to need me at 2:30 in the morning, what I call the witching hour, and I get, Glenda, we need you awake.
Mm.
I'm not awake. I'm not even awake. And then they're like, we got to get, that's where I get downloads. That's when I get the suggestions and all that. So when you said you woke up at 2:30 in the morning, you wanted to just work on they were trying to get your attention. That's why
Hmm.
you even had that uh, that smell, that aroma. So I was like, okay, they're really trying to get his attention on what he was working. Maybe you were working on something particularly. Pay attention. Maybe there's something you want to mm, reword.
Hmm. Hmm. Beautiful. Glenda, tell us about how people can work with you, whether we want to set up a session with you. Um, and what do you offer other than just removing dark attachments? I know you do other things as well. And then
Yes,
tell us about the YouTube shows.
right. Well, they could contact me at my website, glendasmagicalcreations.com, or they could just send me an email at glendasmagicalcreations@gmail.com. But I'm also all over social media. So basically, I'm everywhere. Um, and um, some of the stuff that I do offer is channeling classes one on one. I offer tarot certification classes. I offer also um, shamanism. Those courses are going to start soon again. I offer self love courses. I offer also one on one sessions. And sometimes I call them bliss, and it's just that you need a reset. You need a moment, a reset of all your energy. So, when a healer needs a healer, that's one of the ones that they pick on. Um, uh, Reiki, all types of just anything that the person needs, including I have done weddings, I have done baptismals or presenting of a child, uh, blessing the child, blessing a home. A lot of people buy houses and they're not sure, what the energy is in there, and they ask me to go in there and bless it. So it's a fresh start. They want a new place, a new start, the whole thing. I basically offers coaching, one-on-one sessions. I also have group healings and classes throughout the weeks. So I'm also doing, like, for now, I do a lot of charity work where if it's a place or if it's someone who's sick or whatever, I'll offer whatever services they want me to offer, and the money goes directly to them. Um, just a little bit of everything.
I love it. I love it. Glenda, thank you so much for sharing your story and your wisdom. I resonate with your presence. I read several of your reviews online about people just enjoying you and your presence and what you bring to the table. And
Thank you.
I can definitely feel that in our conversation. So thank you for all that you're doing. We'll put all of the links to your website, of course, and all of your social media in the show notes and encourage people to visit there. So thank you so much, Glenda. It's great to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Awaken Magazine podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and our other conversations, would you mind taking a moment to leave a 5-star review and maybe even a comment on Spotify or Apple Podcasts? That's one of the ways that you can give back to the show and help us reach more people. And of course, feel free to share the episode with a friend. And if you're not already on our email list, we send out an inspiring email every Monday morning full of articles and interviews. Just head on over to awakenedmagazine.com and click subscribe and join for free. Our hope is that all the resources we share will help our world continue awakening to love.